Hello, everyone. A couple of months ago, I saw somebody posted on Facebook a tour of their library, and I was fascinated by it. It went on, and I apologize, whoever you were, for sort of stealing your idea. But I watched it for the entire 20 minutes, and I was really fascinated by the different books in this person's collection. So I figured I'd take you on a tour of mine. So these are my bookshelves, and this is the top of my bookshelves. Little nods to, well, there's Bob Hope's, thanks for the memories. That was on his star at the Chinese Theater at the Footprints. Somebody got that for me, thank you, Mary. What is Soylent Green? Soylent Green is people. Horrible Milky. Horrible Milky. And so begins my tour. Now, this starts with the my Detroit area books, Weird Michigan, the Detroit Almanac, which is really a Bible for Detroiters. It's a fascinating book. Detroit's Mount Olivet Cemetery, where a lot of my family is, and downtown movie palaces. I used to be a projectionist at one of them at the old Madison. Chicago, I lived there for several years. Hollywood on Lake Michigan, TV vacations. These are sort of weird tour books, odd sort of pop culture landmarks. Roadside America. Elvis passed here. Marilyn died here. James Dean died here. The Ruby Slippers. These are Chris Epting's book. Fabulous books. Love them. Murder USA. Route 66 is a great sort of picture book. California guidebooks. What are these things? Well, just sort of LA Noir. Architecture tours. Laura Messino, who does the architecture tour, good friend of mine. Go see her tour. Roadside America. Lamparski's Hollywood. This is like one of the oldest weird Hollywood books, and very fun book. The Ultimate Hollywood Tour book. William Gordon. I recommend that book. I have for years. Palm Springs, Babylon. The San Fernando Valley, Unauthorized America. Southern California, Curiosities, Weird California, Movie Lover's Guide to Hollywood. Sorry about that plant. Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, LA Bizarro. What is this one? Sins of the City, The Real Assets. Oh yes, Maggie Beth, thank you very much. Hollywood Land, Lisa Brooks, thank you. Fallen Stars. Curbside LA, California. Ken Shessler's books. These are published about 1,000 times. Excellent books. Most people I know consider these Bibles when they first moved to Los Angeles. And Weird Hollywood, Joe Osterly's book, which has a terrific little chapter on the Manson murders. These are some cemetery books that I had. This is Graceland Cemetery. Go to my first hardcore cemetery hangouts. Permanent Addresses, one of the first grave books. Elmwood Cemetery. Mark Masick's fabulous book, Hollywood Remains to be Seen. Another Bible, well written, well thought out. One of the first. Final Placement. I got this book like 25 years ago. It's an odd book, an odd selection of selected plantings, but good. The permanent books, Londoners, Parisians, the Californians, and New Yorkers. The Culbertsons wrote these books, and highly inaccurate or vague, but fun. Steve Goldstein's fabulous tome. Is Tome a story? Or anyway, this is nonfiction. This is LA's Graveside Companion, and terrific book. Beatles London. These are mostly tour books. Landmarks London, Westminster Abbey, Final Resting Places, Orange County. Michael Berry's book. Todd Benoit's Where Are They Buried? Voices from the Chicago Graves. Philadelphia Graves, Who's Buried Where in England. That was another well-used book when I lived in England. Glasgow, The Necropolis, fantastic place. London Walks, The 80s Eds, Curious London, The Knowledge. This is, if you live in London, one of the most important books you could have. Even more important than an A to Z. Cabbies need to know the knowledge. They get tested on the knowledge. It was a fantastic reference. American Walks in London, the East End where I used to live, Highgate Cemetery, Americans in London, because I'm an American, not an Americant. London Then and Now, Torches of the Tower, Orkney Guidebook. If you go to Orkney, take the don't stay the night. It's it's a beautiful place. Don't stay the night. Hollywood Now and Then, Hollywood Then and Now, and whoops. Now, the Manson shelf. 3 copies of Helter Skelter because I cannot go to a bookstore and see a copy of Helter Skelter and leave it there. It makes me very, very sad. So I always get it if I see it. The Family Ed Sanders book, Alice LaBianca, No More Tomorrows. Now this was a weird little book. These are records from from the cemetery where Lena LaBianca is buried. And if I could find this, let's see. I think it was August 16th. Well, the Manson murders were August 8th and 9th. Technically, there we go. 11th, 16th. There we go. August 16th, 1969. Leno LaBianca's his funeral at Calvary Cemetery. Let's see, Manson, behind the scenes, Bill Nelson. Will You Die For Me, Tex Watson. Shadow Over Santa Susana Pass. I have never read this book. I've heard good things about it, but I haven't read it yet. Polanski, fascinating story. Manson in his own words. I have 2 copies of that. Gifts. Death Trip, odd book. The Beatles, White Album, Revolution by David Quantick. David is a buddy of mine, and I actually got to help him with that book. Greg King's fantastic book, Sharon Tate and the Manson Murders. This was so interesting, and I understand it's out of print, and you can't find it. They're really expensive, but I'm really glad I read that book. It was so interesting. Tex Watson, Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson was an odd duck, and he's dead. Journal of a Pseudo Juror, the Manson trial. Squeaky's book, Columbo's novel based on the Helter Skelter murder. So it's like a fictional account that Columbo investigated the Manson murders. Killer Cults, John Gilmore's book, The Garbage People, the first book that published the autopsy pictures that I've ever seen of the Manson victims. The Joy of Hooking, Virginia Graham, the hooker. The hooker that Susan Atkins blabbed to. Chronicle of Death. Susan Atkins, Child of Satan, Child of God. Ugh, we leave those. Draw a veil. To the other shelf. This is the paranormal section. Haunted Places, which was also an excellent Bible when it first came out. I haven't touched it in ages. But it was a really great book when it came out. Ghosts of the Rich and Famous, Haunted Heartland. Oh, Gavin. We love Gavin Cromwell. Nice. So nice. He's such a sweet man. Hollywood and the Supernatural. Never mind. Michigan Haunts. Gundella. These are the Ghosts of Hollywood, 1, 2, and 3. Marla Brooks is a good friend of mine. And actually, one of those books chronicles a seance in my own home. Workplace spells. Now, Kenny Kingston, another buddy of mine. It sounds like I'm being name droppy, and I guess I am, but it's true. Kenny's a good buddy of mine, and I love this book. And he knew everybody. I had him on my tour once, and we were talking, and all of a sudden he'll come out with that, "Oop, Joan Crawford didn't like what you just said." You can't beat that kind of entertainment. Ghost of London, Spontaneous Human Combustion. My dead friend Larry was obsessed with combustion, scared to death of it, so I sent him that book, and when he died I took it back. Final Exit, Suicide, the Cray twins. I was big into that when I lived in London because it was the East End of London where I lived, and it was they were sort of heroes. I have books by Reggie, by Ronnie, by Charlie, and I went to two of their funerals actually, Charlie and Reggie, but Cray twins. Severed, Black Dahlia section coming up. John Gilmore's book, Black Dahlia Killer. My daddy was the Black Dahlia Killer. Janice Knowlton. Crazier than a bag of hangers. And she's dead. I think it was suicide. Anyway, not natural causes. The Black Dahlia, James Ellroy. The Black Dahlia Files, Donald Wolfe. I loved that book. A lot of people really piss on it, but I really enjoyed it. Exquisite Corpse, about the Dahlia. Odd, sort of like in art. Gilmore's Laid Bare, another great LA book. James Dean section here. The Unabridged James Dean. James Dean in Death, Warren Beath. A buddy of mine, a good guy. And Live Fast, Die Young, another Gilmore book. Did he have sex with James Dean? Dizzy and Jimmy, she did. Liz Sheridan, she dated James Dean. She may have made a career out of it. I don't think so necessarily, but I mean, James Dean was 24 when he died. How many people could have he had sex with, you know? So there. And that's all she has to say. So there. Surviving James Dean by Bill Bass. The Death of James Dean. This is one of the first death books I ever read. Warren Beath. Again, I'm honored to call him a friend now. I love this book. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. What are these? More James Dean. James Dean. Now comes the Hollywood Scandals. Death Scenes. Hollywood Babylon 1 and 2. I apologize. I often trash Kenneth Anger for very good reason, but they're good picture books. What a Way to Go is a great book about funerals. There's Valentina. Coroner at Large, Thomas Noguchi, and Coroner. I mean, he's like one of my heroes. I would love to meet him. Like, he's so want to meet him. He did everybody. Marilyn, Janice, Bobby Kennedy, Natalie Wood. Oh man, everybody. Death in Paradise. They sell that, I believe, at the coroner's office, and it's a very good book about the history of homicide in Los Angeles. Fallen Angels. Suicide in the Entertainment Industry. There's a niche book for you from Donna Lethal. Thank you. Murder Among the Rich and Famous. Cut. This is another interesting book. I like the book. Part of me wishes I would have written it. Hollywood's Unsolved Mysteries. This Hollywood Murder Case book. Hollywood Hex Cursed Productions. That poltergeist thing. I don't necessarily subscribe to things like that. Final Curtain. I believe she's dead now. The Grim Reaper's Book of Days. How Did They Die? 1 and 2. Jessica Mitford, The American Way of Death. I think Donna gave me that one too. Thank you, Donna. They Went That Away. Malcolm Forbes. He's certainly dead. Now, this was like one of the first books I ever bought on the subject of death. Not particularly good, but interesting nonetheless. These are sort of the weirdo books. Death Around the World. Best of Gravestone Humor. Sudden Endings. Tombstone Humor. The Last Laugh. Famous Last Words. Da-di-da. This is weird. Curiosa. This guy, I don't know who he is, but he collects some wild-ass stuff. And like I have any room to talk, and that's why I find him fascinating. He collects like dental floss and eyelashes and skin, and it's it's fantastic. This is toys and pop culture television. This is the 1969. Oh, it's bent. 1969 Sears catalog. The Christmas catalog Sharon Tate never saw. Let's see. Toy Bop, great picture book for 60s toys. Here on Gilligan's Island. Again, Russell Johnson, Steve Cox, a good buddy of mine. And this is like one of the first books I ever was in, which is kind of a cool thing. Sherwood Schwartz created Gilligan's Island, and I sent this book to Sherwood, and Sherwood sent it back with that picture on it. And he wrote back, I deserve the photo on the cover. Nice guy. He was really nice. Pup and Stuff. Former child stars. Lunch boxes. I used to collect lunch boxes, and then some guy just screwed me out of a ton of money and bought them all from me for like dirt cheap. And anyway. Dreaming of Jeannie. Steve Cox. Again, a great book. Steve Cox writes some great books. The famous Mr. Ed. I got that because Sharon Tate was in a couple of episodes. And I needed the episode numbers. This is actually long before the internet. Unofficial Gilligan book, Goodnight John Boy, about the Waltons, which I also like. This is Big Brother. This is the first Big Brother. This is the very first one in London. God, remember that? Craig, he won. Well, anyway. What else do we have here? Bewitched. That's one of those old Bewitched books that they used to sell. This one my brother gave me, and actually he got this one signed for me by Bernard Fox, Dr. Bombay. And right next to the Bewitched book by Herbie J. Plato. The Beverly Hillbillies book, written by Steve Cox. I bought this book before I even met Steve. Little did I know that 10 years later he would become one of my best friends. And, of course, somebody had cranked out... this one's rich. Louise Tate. a cookbook, the Bewitched cookbook. Now, back to the Batcave, Adam West, good movie. I enjoyed that movie. Boy Wonder, Burt Ward. This is a guy who says in his book, the ultimate bat souvenir would have been sperm that he left in some woman's body. A groupie. That's from the book, I swear on my life. The Unofficial Bat Book, again, one of those books I was obsessed with because of the episode guides. Now, I met Adam West and Burt Ward a couple of times. One of the times I was a kid, and I went to Cobo Arena for the auto show, and I stood in line and bought this stupid comic book, and I went up to meet them, and Adam West and Burt Ward, signed the book, Robin and Batman. The two actors were there. They signed the comic book to a little boy. Well, I guess, I don't know, it just pissed me off. They were dicks, Robin and Batman, but they're famously, at least he is famously a dick about signing autographs. George Barris's Cars, Growing Up Brady, Brady Mania, Elizabeth Moran. I think it was the first book written about the Brady Bunch. I actually became acquainted with Elizabeth, and she published one of my pictures in there. Star Babies, children of movie stars. Lorna Luft does an interview in here about Judy Garland, and she said, Mel Torme, she said, if I ever run into Mel Torme, I hope I'm driving a truck, because he wrote a really nasty book about Judy after she died. Kids TV, that's one of the first books I ever bought on television. Brady Bunch book. There's been a lot of Brady. Now, Adam's Chronicles and the Munsters, two fantastic books. Again, Steve Cox wrote these books. Amazing books, and Yvonne DeCarlo. These books, just for the pictures alone, are worth the price, but really, really good books. The Incredible Don Knotts, another Steve Cox book. The Addams Family, that's like the original printing, I think. From Soupy to Nuts, Story of Detroit television. You guys remember Rita Bell? You guys from Detroit would. These are individual movie books. Close Up on Sunset Boulevard, All About Eve. This is about The Night of the Hunter. This is about It's a Wonderful Life. Jaws, another one of my weird obsessions. I hope to get to Martha's Vineyard later this year to see all the Jaws locations and Chappaquiddick. And this is oh god, this is an old cracked. Oh, look at that, Jaws 2 Mad magazine. And cracked from 1975. Starting in on the side again, this is true crime. These are the true crime books. Crimes of Passion, Murder in Mind, Who's Who of Murderers, Creepy Crawls. This is a tour book of horror movie locations, or horror travel guide. That's obviously Highgate Cemetery. Obviously. Marilyn's book. This is the Hollywood Farewell book. This was a great book, and it documents Marilyn's funeral. That's all it does. Lee Wiener's the guy who wrote this book, and Alan Abbott now owns the rights to it, who's one of the people that helped embalm Marilyn, and yeah, he signed that for me. Nice guy. And here's something that's quite, oh my gosh, this is ancient. This is a Thomas guide, something to show your grandchildren. Actually, this is a really old one. People in LA, you could not move without one of these until just about 5 years ago. Crime Scenes. Thank you to Celebrity Collectibles, Ted James. He sent me that one. Very good book. Very gruesome book. Roadside Baseball. That's Chris Epting again. Let's see now. What other stuff is going on here? Masquerade. That's a guy in Detroit that got chopped up by a hooker and a pimp. Sleep Well. My Little Dead. Oh, Zodiac. Okay. Last Victim. Buried Dreams. Gacy. Good book. Last Victim. Piece of garbage book. I was embarrassed to read that book. That guy who wrote it was just ridiculous. Alone with the Devil. Who's that? A forensic psychiatrist. Manson's followers. Whatever. Guess that belongs to the Manson book. Myra Hindley, another weirdo obsession of mine. I actually wrote her a letter once. Milwaukee Murders, that's Dahmer. I wrote him a letter too. And that's his father's dad. In fact, one of the things I did was I sent him a pad of paper and some pencils, and actually, in the book is written in his dad's book. People sent him pads of paper and pencils. I thought that was interesting. Homicide book, it's right next to Jeffrey Dahmer, because there are some Dahmer victims in that book. This is the Black Museum book, museum in London. I would love to go to. I tried several times. Some nice deaf people. People interested in what I do invited me, but we still never cracked it. Couldn't get in. Amityville Murders, conspiracy. It's an interesting book, although this is the original one, The Amityville Horror. And then these people disproved the whole thing, and it was really, it was really pretty funny to read it. Patty Hearst. It was funny because the way they talked about it, the Lutzes, you know, see, the room wasn't even red, ha, and it was that's the way it was written. Ed Gein. This is my freak show area, Changening Bunker. These were the, I say that with respect. Jerry Marin, he was the lollipop munchkin from The Wizard of Oz. He's not a freak, but he's short and sweet, so he qualifies. Very special people, most fantastic freaks. Some of my best friends are midgets. The Two, that's another Changening Bunker. I'd love to get that Violet and Daisy Hilton book. Elephant Man, this is another excellent piece of reference. When I lived in London, I lived very close to where the Elephant Man lives, so I was able to get some great pictures. Lobster Boy, Grady Stiles, Carney Folk. Freaks. Freak Like Me, that's Jim Rose. Freaks in Movies. Human Oddities. Shocked and Amazed. Love those guys at Shocked and Amazed. Cold Blood. What is that? Is it The Craze again? Oh, the Saga of Charles Schmidt. Pied Piper of Tucson. I forget where I got that from. Oh, it's Gilmore. No wonder. Hi. Mr. Gilmore gave me that. And, Scandals. Oh, Alex, thank you. Alex gave me that. Now, this goes on to the royal family a little bit. Kitty Kelly's book on the royals. Fascinating book. Banned in Britain. They couldn't sell that for the longest time. The Royal Duty by Paul Burrell, who was Diana's butler. A lot of people trash that book. I find it really interesting because it's a lot of insight into the day-to-day life of the royal family, and I found it really interesting. And this is another book about Diana's murder. Her death. Marilyn's autopsy. God, what am I talking about now? Marilyn's auction, not her autopsy. That was the other book. And these are more Marilyn books. Inside Marilyn Monroe. Gross. Goddess. That's the first book that published a picture of Marilyn on the slab. Marilyn A to Z, a fantastic book. I love that book. Prince and the Showgirl and Me, and that's the one this movie that's out now is based on. My Week with Marilyn or something. And I don't believe this guy had an affair with her. I think he kissed her once. I think that was the extent of it, but they made it into this whole romantic thing. Marilyn's Addresses, Hometown Girl. Eric Woodard sent me this book. I love this book. It's so interesting. Let's get a page. This is Marilyn's history, all in pictures and addresses, and not just her homes, but everything having to do with Marilyn. Thank you, Eric. I highly recommend that book. Marilyn Files. Then we go to there's Lucy's book. Abbott and Costello. We're getting into the biographies kind of thing, or liar. Frame Up. That's the Fatty Arbuckle story. Desilu. History of Desilu, Life After Lucy, written by Little Ricky. Paul Byrne by E.J. Fleming. An excellent book. Fantastic story. Really well explained. And again, a very good book. Ernie. That was my friend Jane gave me this book, signed by Ernie himself, and I hope he washed his hands. Conversations with Brando, fascinating book. Really, really interesting insight into Brando. My Life with Chaplin, Lita Gray. On to the next one. Our Gang, Too Young to Die, Gone But Not Forgotten, Too Young to Die. These, Patricia Fox Scheinwald's books, well, she, as far as I know, there's two right here, so never mind. But I bought another one because it was in a bookshelf, and I could not in good conscience leave it there because it's too good of a book. So I've got it there in case, I meet the right person for it. Final Curtain, a great reference book, excellent reference book when it first came out. I think the internet has passed most of these books back, passed them by. Bedside Book of Death. These are genuine leather script covers from Desilu Studios. So a lot of the Lucy episodes, I think, were actually not I Love Lucy, the Lucy show. Their scripts were in these two leather-bound things. Movieland Directory, E.J. Fleming. Thank you very much. Fade to Black. This is a nice gentleman who I was acquainted with, Paul, when I lived in London. A terrific guy and a terrific book. Movie locations coming up. LA Exposed. Oh, that's movie and television locations, On Location. That's about the birds. Famous Hollywood Locations. Carrie Bible's wonderful book, Location Filming. The Worldwide Guide to Movie Locations. Silent Echoes, that's Buster Keaton. Shot on This Site, again, it's a William Gordon book. The Fog, Footsteps in the Fog. I bought that up in Bodega Bay, actually. Hollywood Goes on Location. Wills of the Rich and Famous, Hollywood Death Book. Hollywood Death Certificates, 1, 2, and 3. My buddy Mike Steen wrote those and gave me those copies. Funerals of the Famous, an excellent series of books, which I wish I could afford more of because they're too expensive. Encyclopedia of Bad Taste, Shock Value, Laugh Out Loud. Same with Cookie Mueller's little books. John Waters. Desperate. These are John Waters books. Crackpot, Trash Trio. This is a book about Divine, written by Bernard J., who in the book reveals that Divine's last breakfast was waffles at Red Rock over on Sunset. Divine's mother, Frances, wrote this, My Son Divine, God love her. There's some obituaries, country western obituaries, New York Times obituaries, Waiting for the Sun. Now we're getting into the rock and roll. More deathy books down here. Final Exits. James Elroy. Some nice Death Hag wrote that and sent it on to me. Family Business. That's the Lamb Funeral Home. Death at Every Stop. That's Cunanan. Murder Book of Days. Another Myra Hindley book. What's this? Alcatraz. Oh, this was a great book. Again, for people visiting LA long before the internet. You use your Thomas guide, that map I showed you earlier, and it takes you to different murder locations geographically with directions. First time I saw the Manson murders locations, that was from this book. Alcatraz. Last Train to Alcatraz. Killing for Company, Dennis Nilsson. Great story. He killed people, boiled them, and ate them, and then served pasta made from the same pots to his co-workers. Heaven's Gate. Who Killed Sir Karen Silkwood? Sweeney Todd. Thank you. Love that book. Outrageous Conduct, all about the Twilight Zone killing, massacre, but accidental, of course. Lizzie Borden. Zodiac. I loved that movie. Blood Brothers, Menendez, of course, little twats. This is Lyle Menendez on tape. His girlfriend secretly taped him and then sold them, and they're interesting. This is also the book version of it. Fred and Rose West. Fascinating story about that couple, the crazy couple up in Gloucester, House of Horrors. Killed a bunch of people, a bunch of girls, and buried them in the backyard, including their daughter. OJ A to Z, that Graveline Tour's got a nice shout out in there. Outrage, that's a Vincent Bugliosi book. I got that when I was a kid. These are the Kennedy section. Six White Horses, Death in Chappaquiddick. That's another dream location, as I mentioned earlier. Bobby Kennedy's Funeral. My friend Nikki gave me that book. Thank you. 4 Days. President Kennedy. Reclaiming History. This book, which it's Vincent Bugliosi disproving every aspect, every conspiracy theory. And look at the size of that thing. That's what she said. And this is Jackie Kennedy's Auction. The Estate of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Beyond Ballyhoo. I think that's about William Castle, the director, the gimmick man. Here's Johnny, another great Steve Cox book by Johnny Carson. Just like, I guess, Carol Channing's book. Patricia Bosworth, Montgomery Clift, the first biography I ever read. And I loved this book. King Cone, Harry Cohn's book. Peter Cushing. Okay, I apologize. There's Mommy Dearest. But I balance it out with Joan Crawford, Her Life in Letters. So I apologize, Casey, but I think I redeemed myself. Gary Crosby's book about his horrible father. You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town. Julia Phillips, Dead. Cobain Unseen. A really interesting book. Thanks to my friend Tony who gave me that book. There's a lot of fascinating documents that have been reproduced in there. Really, I like that trend of book with death certificates and concert tickets all been reproduced. Really good. Tom Cruise, unauthorized. I haven't read it yet, to be honest with you. The Times We Had, Marion Davies. Talk about Hearst Castle. Betty Davis, This and That. Her retaliation to this piece of garbage, My Mother's Keeper, B.D. Hyman, Betty Davis's ungrateful daughter, who's now a televangelist, wrote a trashy book, but at least she did it while Betty was still alive and could defend herself, and Betty did. God love her. And this is also a collection of Betty Davis interviews. It's Bose Hadley. That's questionable, but they're great stories. Doris Day, Nora Dunn, my biography of Cass Elliot. Kid Stays in the Picture, Robert Evans, I just think he's fantastic, and it's the audio book. Francis Farmer and Francis Farmer. Now, these are a little bit more LA-like. Some of them are anyway. This is music and LA mixed up. So this is about the Pink Palace, that's the Beverly Hills Hotel, rock obituaries, the Garden of Allah, the B-52s, Straight Whiskey, that's all about the Whiskey Go-Go. The Doors book, all about the Doors, signed by 3 of the Doors. They did that for a 40th anniversary a few years back. Death Discs. That was published by Sanctuary, who also published our Rocky Horror book. It's all about records about death, like Run Joey Run and stuff like that. James St. James book, Disco Bloodbath, which was given to me by Jane Bussman, a friend of mine. Rock Shrines, Jane Bussman wrote Once in a Lifetime. A couple of other books I have too. Worst Date Ever, I think, is one of them. Rock Shrines, this is one of those books that has fantastic documents in it. I mean, just reproduced documents, newspapers, and old posters, and it's really notes. Handwritten notes, and look at those tickets that have been reproduced. Now, I love this book, and actually they give a nice nod to Find a Death in here, saying something like, I don't know. I'll look at Pamela DeBar did the forward, so it's good. But Find a Death, certainly, he mentioned something about it being an inspiration, which is nice. Rock Bottom, Pamela DeBar. I took her tour. It was interesting. Straight Dope. You get this book, you can read the list of things that have been found up people's butts. In fact, I have that page bookmarked. Certain things that have been, you know what? I don't even have my glasses in, so you'll have to bear with me. But this is a partial list of things. Screwdriver, 4 rubber balls, toothbrush package, teacup, an oil can, all the things that have been found up people's butts, but no gerbils. That's just an urban myth. Speaking of urban myths, urban legends. Not This Time, Cary Grant. That's a gossip book by columnist Shirley Eater, who was a big columnist. She could have been bigger, but her husband took her to Detroit, unfortunately for her. And Carol Channing told me that she's not doing very well these days. The National Enquirer book. It was an anniversary book, had some great dead pictures in it. You'll Never Make Love in This Town Again. Horrors wrote that book. Celebrity Tantrums. Oh, nice lady. She took my tour. The Coloring Book. Coloring Book Land. Parental Advisory. Lenora Claire gave me this book. It is filthy, vulgar, and very, 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 very funny. And vulgar doesn't even begin to describe the Answer Me books. Yeah, good stuff, but fascinating and really, really gross. Smoking Gun, very good. In fact, I got a nice note from the Smoking Gun people. I was one of the first websites to ever link to them, and I got a really nice note back from them saying thanks, which, knowing what they are now, is, it's very nice back then. People were so nice back then. This is the story of the Ambassador Hotel. Dominic Dunn's book. Thank you, my friend Mark, who gave me that book. Chateau Marmont, Life at the Marmont. I love this book. This is another book that's sort of a weird Chateau Marmont book. It's a dumb book, but anyway, I have it. Great American Movie Theaters. Again, that's sort of a weird quirk of mine. I love old movie theaters. And Stars Homes. And Dream Palaces. My dad bought me that book. How nice was that? He found it at a used book sale. California. Crazy. All about weird architecture. Architectural Digest, Stars issues. You know, there was an Architectural Digest that was printed with the setups, with the sets of Sunset Boulevard. I've never been able to find that again, but it was beautiful, beautiful pictures of the set of Sunset Boulevard, and I've never been able to find it. And I own it somewhere. That's what's bugging the hell out of me. Storybook Architecture. Architectural Digest again. Stars at Home. This is Jane's mom, Janet Brandis, gave me these books. I got a lot of books from Janet. Rest in peace. Frank Lloyd Wright. It ain't over yet. All right, now we're back to the biographies. Mia Farrow, crazy. Eddie Fisher, crazy. When that book came out, Carrie Fisher, well, Carrie Fisher said she'd like to have her DNA fumigated, which I thought was very funny. She's very funny. One Fine Stooge, the Larry Fine book. Steve Cox again, great book. Princess Grace, Connie Francis, Anne Frank, Judy Garland, Zsa Zsa Gabor, the Gabor Abelia, the book all about the Gabors. Celebration. W.C. Fields and Me. Carlotta Monti wrote that. Annette Funicello, God bless Annette Funicello. This is a woman who didn't deserve anything that's happened to her. Well, the success in early, but God, she got the shaft. God love her. Speaking of getting the shaft, Judy Garland. Oh, this is that shitty Mel Torme book that just really trashes Judy. This is Space and Back. Mark Goddard, who played Don on Lost in Space, wrote this book, and he was selling them at a bookstore, or at one of those autograph shows. And he talks about Karen Cups in it, the mysterious death of Karen Cups in it. Now he drove her to Mexico for an abortion. Hollywood's Master Showman. This is all about Sid Groman. Haywire, Susan Hayward. Buddy Holly. Hedda Hopper. Hedda and Luella, Howard Hughes, Ellen King, that's autographed, I think. A lot of these books are autographed. Hedley Lamar, Peter Lawford, that was written by his wife, who just trashed him. I mean, he probably didn't deserve any kind of, real reverence, but oh my God, the stuff that she wrote about him was just humiliating. And she also said when Peter died, Jackie Kennedy called her to give her condolences. I am about sure. Psycho, Janet Leigh. I went to that book signing, and she was not happy when I took a butcher knife out and asked her to sign it. Vivian Leigh, John Lennon. Why do I have that book? Jane Mansfield. Speaking of Jane. There it is. There's the pink suitcase that was in the back of the car. That killed Jane Mansfield. In fact, let's see. There's the dent. I wonder how close that was to Mariska Hargitay's head. Anyway, back to the books. Oh, here's some books I'm reading right now. John Phillips. Veeps, this very nice man, took my tour and gave me this book. Nice lady wants to take my tour and gave me this book. Glenn Ford, I met Peter Ford a couple of weeks ago at the Hollywood Heritage Museum and bought this book from him. I'm hoping to interview him sometime soon. Thank you, Donna Lethal, for that. And the Dead Celebrity Cookbook, which I can't wait to get into. Klaus Nomi's Lime Tart. Who knew? Tom Bosley's Linguine. Oh my gosh. Okay, so back to where do we leave off? We left off at Jane Mansfield. Liberace, Behind the Candelabra, a great book. Maybe it's full of shit, I don't know, but I find it fascinating. Again, the day-to-day stuff about Liberace was fascinating to me. There was some dirt, but the day-to-day stuff about him, where he kept his toupees and things. Very interesting, and how he felt about that. Paul Lynde, Center Square. Diamonds to Dust, The Life and Death of Jane. Meatloaf, Freddie Mercury. Bette Midler, Yes, I'm Gay. Looking for Tara. Ooh, that's the story of Margaret Mitchell and Gone with the Wind, which I bought at the Margaret Mitchell house, which was just ludicrous. But it's history. Ricky Nelson. Oh, speaking of history, that's history. Boy George's book. He talks about how he used to go to Vivian Westwood's shop in the King's Road and steal things with a coat hanger through the mail slot. John Lahr, Prick Up Your Ears, nice man, really, really nice man. And the story of Joe Orton. Dolly Parton's book, Santa Evita. This is all about Eva Perón's corpse. Really interesting book. Anne Margaret, Saturday Night Live. Gilda Radner's audiobook. Alan Zweibel's book, Bunny Bunny. Oh my gosh. A book ever tear your hair. If a book ever tore your heart out and stomped all over it, this is the one. I still get choked up when I read that book. It's beautiful, and God bless Gilda. Now we've got the Ramones. And we got the Ramones. And we've got the Ramones. And we've got Ramon by Alan Ellenberger. A historian, fellow historian, and a really, really nice guy. I love Alan. He's a terrific guy. Nancy Reagan's book, the opposite of historian, but really good dish. Hollywood Kryptonite. I had these guys on my tour once, back when we used hearses. Graveline. Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. One of the Vandellas is actually a nurse in the hospital where my mom spent some time a few years back. I got her business card. I should call her. Family secret. Bugsy Siegel. Ronnie Spector, another one that got the shaft. Cast of Killers and Murder in Hollywood. That's William Desmond Taylor, Elizabeth Taylor, Kitty Kelly's book. I haven't read that one yet. I have read Mr. S. Donna Lethal gave me this book, and there's some dish in there. It's fantastic. I got through that book in about 2 days. It was so good. East of Eden, we're going into the fiction area here, and Giant. Gene Wilder's book, My French Whore. Nice man. He is a really nice man. Homer Price. I think I'm going to get a Homer Price tattoo. I love Homer Price, and I love The Ghost of Dibble Hollow. This is another book I saw in a bookstore, and I had to buy it because it broke my heart to see it in a bookstore. These are just weird little books. Oh, this is more Homer Price. Centerburg Tales. Go Dog Go. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I got that when I was about 10. I was disappointed it wasn't Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder. The Fan, I love that book. These are nice gentlemen gave me this at the cemetery one day when I was there. I love this book. It's very cute, and they were very kind to me to give that to me. What do we have here? Charlotte's Web, Harold and Maude's script, The Loved One. It Was a Dark Stormy Night. The best first lines in movies, I think. The Zombie Survival Guide and Creepiosity. My sister and my niece gave me these books. I love my family. Rosemary's Baby, Agatha Christie, Black Like Me. I mean, who shouldn't have that? In Cold Blood, Ready Made Family. That's another sort of scholastic book series books to show you how you should deal with life. Brave New World, Lost in Space. Notes from a Small Island, a great book about an American in London, or in Britain. Boy Scout Handbook, yes I was. Alfred Hitchcock's Haunted Houseful. I got tattoos from the sleeve of this book. I mean, this book really creeped me out, and still does. High school yearbooks, ugh, never mind. Alright, okay, last shelf. We're down at the very bottom. Blood and Tinsel, that's Jim Sharman, who directed the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Rocky Horror Show book, Rocky Horror Calendar, Bette Midler, Bob Down, love, Bob Down, Winchester Mystery House, Forest Lawn, Graceland. These are Super 8 films that I have, The Wizard of Oz and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, how gay is that? What do we have here? Oh, the Wizard of Oz book. Amazing book by John Fricke, documenting the Wizard of Oz. Really fantastic book as just even a picture book. And Meinhard Robbie, who played the coroner, his book, again, an excellent picture book. Algene Hermetz wrote this book, one of the first books about the Wizard of Oz. A lot of myths in that book that have been repeated, but it was still an interesting book in the first. Clipping. I used to save everything. Oz was no box office. I did. I clipped so many articles and stuck them in books. Cosmic Light. That's Jim Whittaker's book. The first really good interview book about Rocky Horror. What's the second one? Could it be that one? Munchkins of Oz, Steve Cox. That's the second printing. That's an Architectural Digest with Tim Curry's house. Who cares? Mel Brooks, High Anxiety. Love that book. The Grease photo novel. Frenchie's Grease Handbook. Now, Creatures of the Night, Sal Piero's books. Fun fan fiction, or fan stories, just fan stories. The floor shows around the country, the people that perform. The Rocky Horror Show book. This is Bill Henson's book. This was the Rocky Horror person's Bible for the longest time. And the Rocky Horror photo novel, the script, music. After Dark magazine, who remembers that? With a Rocky Horror article in it. What do we have here? Circus Magazine, another Rocky Horror article is in there. And what do you know? Rocky Horror script. Tommy. This is the music from Tommy. Look at that, my little Dymo name. When I was in band, I played Tommy music on my clarinet. I swear on my life. Wizard of Oz. Ruby Slippers of Oz. Fascinating book about the what happened to the props from the Wizard of Oz and a lot of others. Fantastic book. Rhys Thomas, highly recommend it. Down the Yellow Brick Road, The Making of. Steve's first printing, The Munchkins Remember. Christie's auctions of Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland stuff, movie stuff. Creep Show, Stephen King, At the Movies. What's that? Oh, censorship, I believe. Yeah, censorship in movies. Titanic. Oh, we're getting into the disasters. Titanic and the Titanic. World's worst disasters. Moya Piewszak. That was my Polish book. Slang Dictionary. Making Your Goals a Reality. Mitch Albom. My mom sent me that. Dream Dictionary. Deepak Chopra. Gift. Turning on the Light. Gift. Accept This Gift. Actually, I did buy that one. Cheap Psychological Tricks, more my speed. Gay Love Signs, yes. Sewing Circle Gay, Hollywood Gays, Sex Lives of Gays, Hair, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Conversations with My Elders, it's about the gays, London Scene, Gay, Rose Hadley, Gay, Hollywood Lesbians, Sing Out, all about the gays, 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 queer. Okay, this is 1,000 Places to See Before You Die. And guess who's in that? Dearly Departed Tours? Yes, it is. Caller Miss Ross. Cat Stevens. This is Jimmy Stewart's book. Actually, I got to meet him briefly when he's signing that book. Gloria Swanson on Swanson. Joey Stefano's book. He will end up on Find a Death. Somebody wrote me about that recently. Robert Stevens. This is Pat Quinn's husband. Dead husband, and she gave me that from Rocky Horror. Judy Tenuta's book, Hot Toddy by Thelma Todd. What's in there? Sojourner Truth. Oh, I supplied a grave picture for this book when it was first when it was published. Really, I think they paid me $50 to use my my picture of Sojourner Truth's grave in there. Usually flick to the end of it. There it is. That's my book. That's my picture. Valentino Mystique. Ellen Ellenberger again. And then the other Valentino book, I'm going to put these one here. Forever, Tracy Terhune, a friend. And I love this book, all about the memorial services. Love it. Love Dottie West. She ate off lard tins. Did you know that? Andy Warhol Diaries. Another excellent reference book. Fashion and Perversity about Vivienne Westwood. Talks about how she designed a masturbation skirt. This is all that glittered. Tony Turner's book about the Supremes, who was friends with Florence and the rest of the Supremes, and it is dirt. It is dish, and it is really interesting. Some people doubt its validity. I don't care. It's dirt, and it's really good dirt, and I love it. Barry White, Billy Wilder, Jack Webb, Mae West, Kenneth Williams, very funny man, disgusting too. Dennis Wilson, Ed Wood, Mary Warnoff, oh, Miss Toer. I met her at the cemetery when she was doing a rock and roll high school thing last year, a couple of years ago, and I told her I got this book, and I heard her speak in London, and her eyes just popped out of her head. Because nobody really knows she was like a Warhol person, you know. I mean, she was The Factory, and she'd done a ton of movies. And the people at the cemetery, they were showing Rock and Roll High School, and they're like, how's it feel to have been in a Corman movie? And she's like, oh, whatever. But she was good-natured about it. And the story of Florence Ballard by her sister, Maxine Precious Ballard, who claims that Florence got the nickname Blondie because that's what she called her, and Flo would call her Dagwood, right? And she said, there's actually a line in here, the tears flow down my face like the blood of my menstruation. I kid you not. Mary Wilson, Dream Girl Part 2. This. Lost Supreme, I just got that one. Nothing to look up, it's okay. These are famous radio broadcasts, Motown broadcast, Life Magazine, Mutter Museum, or Mutter Museum, I guess is how it would be pronounced. Things That Will Kill You. MGM, Sleeping Beauties, that's memorial photography in America. Disturbing to some people. Paramount Story, The Story of Hollywood, an excellent reference book. Hollywood at Your Feet, about the Chinese theater. Hollywood Land and Legend. East End of London. It's kind of all over the place, my books. The LA Times. Double Exposure, Take Two. Those are people made up to look like famous people. What do we have here? Mortician's Guidebook. Bicycle Rides Around LA. Dolly Parton's Cookbook. Sugar and Grease. Oh, that's Ronnie Claire Edwards, who played Cora Beth on the Waltons. The Brown Derby Restaurant. I think it's Brown Derby. Cooking in Oz. Steve Cox helped with that book. But Elaine Winningham, a really, really good book. Jeep Wrangler, Celebrity Cookbook, Last Suppers, Brown Derby, Betty Crocker, and this is my newest edition, Mom's Best One-Dish Suppers. Lastly, these are my to-do ones. Ones I want to read very soon. Errol Flynn, I Make It Wicked, Wicked Ways. For the Thrill of It, Leopold and Loeb. Bonnie and Clyde, Chop Shop. This is again Lamb Funeral Home Scandal. Secret Stairs. These are tour walks in LA that Troy and I like to do. Tombstone Tourist, my friend Scott Stanton. A good reference book, excellent reference book. Same with Chris Epting's Led Zeppelin Crash Here and Rock and Roll Road Trip. There's a book on Laurel Canyon, which I embarrassingly have not read yet. Jane Bussman, Worst Date Ever. Mary McDonough from the Waltons. Linda Lovelace, I'm almost done with that book. Countess, I haven't got to that one yet. Thank you, my friend Jennifer. Hello, It's Me, Chris Epting. Fascinating. Really, really interesting stuff. Richard Speck, Rosa Parks, Elmer McCurdy. That's that guy that was actually a dummy in a amusement park ride that turned out to be a real person. Hollywood High School and John Waters' Role Models. That's another Donna Lethal gift. And well, the last thing I have here, I think, is this Rock Hudson book, which is by Martin Flaherty, and that's going to be. I interviewed Martin, and he's going to be the next Dearly Departed online story. And that's my little tour of my book collection, so thank you, and good night.